Shai, you wrote a piece for Sportsnet.ca this week about kind of how the jigsaw puzzle pieces for the Blue Jays might fit within I think your estimate was about $160 million payroll, which that's probably a pretty good guess, right? Up from last year, but not dramatically up from the 150 plus where they finished last year. And it's hard to, frankly, it's hard to make those jigsaw puzzle pieces fit in terms of top of the market free agents with the Dexter Fowlers of this world. I'm not sure how you do that, let alone bringing Edwin Encarnacion back to join Kendrys Morales. I don't see how that's possible. But I'm wondering, is there another scenario here? Because right now they would have X amount of dollars and they would have to apportion it to get a couple of corner outfielders, bolster the bullpen. Maybe Jimenez is your backup catcher and he's cheap, but maybe you probably got to go get a backup catcher. Or would they consider, do you think that there's a more radical approach where they would consider dealing from the major league roster to get some payroll relief and reapportion that money in a different way? And again, I always get in trouble when I mention names, but if you could deal Troy Tulowitzki and liberate that money in a position that you might be able to backfill with someone else, that would reconfigure this team and reconfigure the money pretty dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an approach you could take. I feel like that would be a risky one, given the likelihood that Batista and Encarnacion aren't going to be back here next year. So at that point, you're really gutting the team that fans have fallen in love with. I haven't heard too much about that. My sense is that if the Blue Jays do make a trade, it'll be something more along the lines of the type of deals we saw them make last year, like the Jason Grilli or Francisco Liriano, taking money back for negligible prospect capital. That's more the type of trade I see them making right now. My guess is that if next year goes sideways or turns upside down and things get really rough, at that point, the Blue Jays really have to start figuring out where they're going to go, because they're going to lose 2/5 of their starting rotation, or potentially lose 2/5 of their starting rotation to free agency at the end of next year. They're really, unless Connor Green and Sean Reed-Foley make massive strides this year, there's no one coming on the farm to help fill that void, or maybe Joe Biagini transitions, but still that's a significant hole. There'll be other roster issues that'll need to be addressed. So I would think that debate, that approach is more coming for July and next off season as opposed to this off season.
Because in terms of even in terms of taking money back now, Shai, I could see them taking Grilli money back. I can't see them taking Liriano money back at this stage, or the equivalent of it, because again they'll push themselves right up against a wall, won't they?
It depends on the player, right? I could see them, and I really think that there's a scenario where this could end up happening. Jay Bruce, who's I think $13 million or in that range. I can see them taking that contract. I think it fits. The Blue Jays had some interest in Josh Reddick, and I'm not sure they were completely sold on him because of the way the splits play out and the length of the commitment. But he would have been in that $12-13 million range, and I think they can do that kind of deal. They can, if Dexter Fowler's $15 million a year, I still think you can fit him in and address the other things. It's just the debate becomes, are you spending big on one guy and then trying to get some more value players in other areas, or do you try to get sort of mid-range guys all the way around?
Yeah, well, and again, it would help you if you thought that Dalton Pompey, for instance, could be an everyday outfielder, right? That's but he's almost the only example of that. Jimenez potentially as a backup catcher, but I can't come up with another example of a young cheap guy in their system who would give you that little bit of wiggle room.
Right, exactly, and the only real hope of like one of the big prospects, possibly breaking through this year, maybe Rowdy Tellez, very late in the season at the end of September. But I also feel there's a pretty strong school of thought within the organization that he plays the whole year at AAA and see where he goes for 2018.